So, one of the things that in the School of Communications that we are doing and responding to, and I'm really proud to say that our school had a leadership role in ensuring that other schools of journalism, mass communication, and departments who are accredited strive for this as well. And that is that how are we preparing our students having a multicultural understanding of the history of our practice? Because I believe that we are the keepers of the culture. And if you're the keepers of the culture, you have to recognize the power of the media, be it news, be it cinema and television that you watch, the music that you are listening to, etc. But we are the ones who are producing that content. So we have to understand the power that the media has had in the past, but it's a multicultural power. That we recognize that there was a black press. We recognize that there is, Hispanic, media. We recognize that there is the LGBTQIA movement within media and organizations, et cetera. So, in looking at and studying media history, all of our faculty are having to frame the history as a multicultural history, right? So that's one. And if you're accredited, everybody has to begin to do that. So it means new textbooks, it means new professional development for faculty because people have to learn what they didn't learn
Mm.
when they went to graduate school because a lot of it wasn't taught. But we've got to learn it because as faculty, we have to continue to grow. A second thing that we are now doing is we're making sure that our students are able to create content that can um, that can resonate with, be well received by multicultural audience. So they have to be competent or proficient intercultural communicators. So that means they have to know how to do better research. How do I learn what your media uses and gratifications are? How do you want to receive information? And how is that tied to your different identity? What is salient on this issue of your identity that will make you pay attention to this message, to this content, your selection of media? So faculty have to learn how to be better at research because how I approach a Spanish speaking person where English is their second language is going to be different than how I approach someone whose English is their native language. How I approach a member of the LGBTQIA community is going to be different than how I approach someone who is heterosexual and cisgender, right? Identify with their gender of their birth. So faculty need to learn how to do that kind of research and force themselves to make sure that their samples are diverse when they do their own research and help students to be able to do research with subjects who are different than themselves, to produce content for audiences that are not themselves. Because we love to do stories that we like, but how do we create stories that resonate? And then how do we avoid um, creating content that's going to be uh, hurting one of the fault lines that exist. So if you look at the Maynard Institute, we've introduced all of our faculty the fault lines, line of research and the paradigm to judge if we hold comprehensive stories that look at issues of social economics, that we are communicating stories that have difference of place, either urban or rural or suburban or urban or what have you. Are we doing stories and have we avoided tripping over gender identification? Are we doing diverse stories? Are we trying to avoid the terminologies that might be offensive to people from different religions or sexual orientations, etc. So we can be culturally proficient communicators. But again, as keepers of the culture, um, we have to also make sure that we are creating students who can work on diverse teams and students that can advocate for diversity and inclusion and equity within our industry. So, on that front, we have instituted a new course. It's going to be required of all of our students beginning in 2023 that they have to take on inclusive leadership and communication, where they're learning who are they? They're thinking about their own independent identity What do they avow? What's the effect that happens when people ascribe different identities to the ones that they avow? How does that affect them as individuals? How do they become a better leader? What is leadership? How do I then take on skill sets of empathy, of empathetic listening, of active listening? How do I give feedback? How do I deal with conflict? How do I, when I see a microaggression, how do I even know, like, what is a microaggression? How do I then speak up? How do I be a better ally who are different than me? What does that even mean? How do I avoid trying to be a savior, but really stand beside someone as an ally? And what is the difference and why does it matter? We're having those conversations because I want my students to not only be team members, because every team member is a leader. If you're a follower, you also are a leader because you're a member of that team. You're expected to contribute to the team. That's a form of leadership, is contribution. So, how do I contribute in a diverse environment? Be it that we're all white women, let's say, it's still a diverse environment, right? How do I be a leader as a follower? But then, when I'm responsible for managing, being a team leader by title, how do I then spirit of inclusion, right? How do I recognize the diversity but don't trip over it? How do I not avoid landmines, but how do I then ask for forgiveness when I have foot in the mouth disease? And how do I learn to avoid that? So we created a class that focuses the attention on just that leadership. But then all the other classes deal with those other things that I talked about. When you take a 100 survey class about, media and society, you're learning about multicultural media. When you take your writing class, you're pulling up the AP style book and you're seeing how you should be using pronouns, if at all, in stories. Should I be using Mr., Ms., Miss, Mix, whatever? Or do I avoid doing that? And why does the AP style book say to do that? How do we pull out what the Native American journalists say in terms of being more appropriate with different indigenous populations in the United States? So we do that in the writing class because that helps them to create being more interculturally competent communicators. When we get into the research classes, they're studying the human subjects review process so that they can know why certain populations have to have additional protections and why that's important. They got to know what the Tuskegee experiments were, right? They have to know that. So they are learning diversity, equity, inclusion in their research class, but they're also learning it in their camp because they need to know how to segment audiences. And segmenting audiences is no different in the white community than it is in the black community, it is in the lesbian community or the transgendered community. You still have to segment because people are not monolithic groups.
Right.
And so every class that they take, it has to be infused. But then you also have to lean into their leadership. And what does it mean to be a great team? But those are some of the practical things that Elon is doing.
That sounds phenomenal. And we we need to just copy and paste that all around because it's sorely needed.
But it has to be assessed,
Yes.
right? What is the level of your students and your faculty and your staff's cultural competence? And how do we then move that needle? Because the reality is, if you never hire a Black person, okay, I want you to, but let's say as you can't for whatever reason, don't have any positions or what have you. What have you done to introduce Black thought into your curriculum, even if you can't hire somebody? And how do we assess the impact of that guest speaker or that reading or that video or that film or whatever? What impact did that have on moving the needle of cultural competence, moving the needle of inclusive leader? And then you measure it at the end. Did people participate in whatever that treatment is? I'm using like experimental design language, but you got to pre-test it. You got to do whatever your treatment is, your experiment, and then you got to post-test it. Did you move the needle? And you have to do that of your students. You got to do that of your faculty. You got to do that of your staff.